Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the open session for Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. We return to the regular meeting of the board after a short recess, and I would like to rise and report on items dealt with in Committee of the Whole closed session. These items pertain to negotiations and personnel issues. I'd like to begin with just a moment of silence in memory of the family that died in the fire this past Monday. So if we could just take a moment of silence now, please. Thank you. Please rise for an acknowledgement and national anthem, and please turn off your cameras while this occurs.
We would like to acknowledge
that we are here today
on the traditional territory
of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
Nous tenons à reconnaître que nous sommes sur le territoire traditionnel
des Mississaugas de la Première Nation de Credit.
Oh, Canada.
Once again this evening, I invite trustees to ask questions on the reports by staff. All questions by trustees can be placed in the chat, and I'll facilitate asking them and identifying the trustee who has raised the question. Number 5, I approve the agenda. Number 6, I have no conflicts to declare. Number 7, celebrating board activities. 7.1, Earth Month. April is Earth Month, which includes the celebration of Earth Day on Friday, April 22nd. Peel District School Board has long embraced environmental stewardship. In fact, our schools are among the leaders in sustainability in Ontario, with more than 115 certified eco-schools across the board. Each year during Earth Month, Peel District School Board students participate in a wide range of learning opportunities and activities to help students better understand their environmental footprint and the actions they can take to be more eco-friendly and make a positive impact on the environment. This year is no different, with a full lineup of events scheduled, including a student-designed and led conference to kick off Earth Month. Item 7.2, Sikh Heritage Month. Sikh heritage is Canadian heritage and a significant part of the story of Canada, Ontario, and Peel. The region of Peel is home to the largest Sikh population in the Greater Toronto Area. Sikh Heritage Month is an opportunity to remember, celebrate, and educate students, families, and community about Sikh Canadians and the important role that they have played and continue to play in communities across Ontario and around the world. Through Bill 52, April was declared a Sikh Heritage Month by the province in 2013 in recognition of the important contributions that Sikh Canadians have made to Ontario's social, economic, political, and cultural fabric. April was chosen given its significance for Sikhs, as it is in April that Sikhs celebrate Vaisakhi, which marks the birth of the Khalsa and the Sikh articles of faith, the Kesh, Kachera, Kanga, Kadra, and Kirpan. Sikh Heritage Month was adopted officially by the Peel District School Board in April of 2019. Since then, through the development of curricular opportunities for students, community engagement to guide staff actions, and through student voice, Peel District School Board students, their families, and staff continue to increase their awareness and understanding of Sikh identity, arts, language, culture, and heritage within and beyond Canada. Sikh Heritage Month in the Peel District School Board will offer students, staff, and community an opportunity for celebration, recognition, and learning about the rich and unique historical and contemporary contributions made by Sikhs to the Canadian mosaic. Item 8.1, Administrative Professionals Day on April 27th, 2022. Wednesday, April 27th is Administrative Professionals Day. Thank you to the administrative staff across the board for all that you do to keep our schools running smoothly and for always putting students at the forefront. You consistently go above and beyond to support our staff, students, and families, and we hope you know how much you are appreciated. Item 8.2, Retirements. I would like to acknowledge all our retirees and thank them for their many years of dedicated service to the Peel District School Board. We wish you every success in your future endeavors. The following are our retirees: Anne Alfonso, Joan Ballaram, Jennifer Binman, Stephanie Bogles, David Brinton, Keir Brown, Rudolyn Campbell, Jill Casson, Jeffrey Ching, Alana Coghill, Sonia Copeland, Joanne Kosu, Annie Couture, Brian Danbrook, Nachata Denota, Judith Flores, Carmen Gibb, Fulvia Girotto, Michael Herman, Jacqueline Kinkead, Teresa Kismatali, Mariana Kutlesa, Peter Kwasani, Paulette Lavigueur, Kim Lim, Patricia Lobben, Karen Lynch, Joan McCrimmon, Valerie Lyon, Alexandra Maxwell, Linda McKenzie, Gail McMillan, Joe Milutinovich, Lisa Odd, Helen Pat, Kelly Penton, Lydia Romachuk, Leah Rothfield, Kathleen St. Ange, Lynn Shields, Gary Smalden, Sonia Spasic, Nadia Wahid Hossein, Philip Walton, Kathy West, and Lori Wood. Thank you again for your exceptional service. Item 9, I have no announcements to make this evening. Item 10, there is no report from the student trustees. Item 11, we have no reports from trustees appointed to external organizations this evening. And on to item 12.1, the Director's Annual Report, Director Swaroop.
Thank you, Supervisor Rodriguez, and good evening, trustees, staff, and community members. As we heard earlier from Supervisor Rodriguez this week, our Peel community mourned the loss of a family who died in a devastating house fire in Brampton. The victims of the fire were 3 children who were students at the Peel District School Board and the devoted parents. The children's grandmother is currently in hospital with serious injuries. Our thoughts are with their extended family, friends, and school community during this difficult time. Mental health and well-being of students and staff has been a priority for us at Peel District School Board. Today, I want to share how school staff is supporting students in addressing mental health and well-being. Positive mental health and well-being are some of the most important predictors of student success. And they've become central in our strategy to build an inclusive learning environment and helping our students succeed across the board. And the results have been nothing short of incredible. At Alan A. Martin Senior Public School, for instance, the school was able to reduce suspensions by 95% over the course of 2 years by employing a restorative approach to building a positive school climate. And during a school visit to Louise Arbor Secondary School, I was able to see firsthand how the school goes above and beyond to support student mental health and well-being. To get a better understanding of what this looks like in action, here is a video in which students, staff, and clinicians share the work they're doing and the impact it is having on student mental health and well-being, leading to their success.
The contact program at Louise Arbor Secondary School is run a bit differently than other contact programs. What I do here is focus on 5 competencies: physical, spiritual, cultural, moral, and social. So when students come to this room, they're often upset. There's something happening out in the community, something happening within the school that they want to discuss. And so we use those competencies to help them inform the decisions that they need to make to move forward. The room is also a very grounding place. Students will come in throughout the day, just even for a minute to touch base. They feel that when they're here, it's a very mindful place, a very safe place.
Coming back from COVID to school, I had to readjust. The first few weeks of school was really hard. So I asked our principal at the time, who was my teacher in school, if I could, work in a different environment, and she sent me down contact. It's welcome to the entire school. Whoever needs to come in and just want to be in an environment where you can get work done. You can say whatever you need to and it stays in the room. It doesn't go beyond the room. And it's a judgment-free zone. It's a safe zone.
Community agencies play an integral role for us here at Louise Arbor. For instance, we utilize Punjabi Community Health Services to service our South Asian population.
At our school, we do a lot of work on mindfulness, a lot of work on wellness breaks. I think that's a really big thing, especially coming off a couple of years of online learning and pandemic learning, right? Sometimes kids just need a break. And if we have a student that shares that they're struggling to get through a morning where there's not really a break, we offer a wellness walk in the halls. Sometimes they come to the merit room for a snack.
Alan A. Martin definitely stands out because of the whole merit room idea and also the food. Because for me especially, I go on the bus and I don't have that much time to eat in the mornings, so the food here is always a help.
And number one thing that we do here to make kids know that they're welcomed and they're cared for at the school is we welcome them every morning for their lates, which is my most favorite part of the day.
So the mental health resource clinician team, we do offer a variety of different supports. So we do offer counseling group supports, students who may have or are experiencing any mental health challenges. So they are self-referral based to reduce stigmas. They learn a variety of different skills such as self-confidence, empowerment, positive identity, also recognizing their own strengths.
Currently, we offer a group called Resilience. It's a 6-week counseling group based on the CBT model. The group is designed for students that identify as Black, Afro-Caribbean, or any part of the African diaspora. It gives students an opportunity to learn coping strategies in regards to their mental health. It also fosters a sense of identity within the Black community, and is also a place for them to commune with other Black students going through the same experience as them.
I do think about the Inspire program. To see the students who come through that program and just thrive, and to really help those students turn around and find school to be a place where they felt belonging and where they felt they could thrive, and to see those students now off to post-secondary destinations and doing well. So I think that is a very rewarding experience to have and know that we are making a difference.
This is just a small glimpse into the extensive work being done across the board in schools to promote student well-being. And thank you to all who participated in the video and to the students for speaking about how the supports have helped them. I hope to be able to share more insights and stories like this from other schools throughout the year, using the various communication channels across the board. National Indigenous Language Day. Tomorrow, March 31st, is National Indigenous Languages Day, a day to honor the strength and importance of Indigenous languages and culture to the identity of Indigenous peoples. Despite the great diversity of Indigenous languages spoken across what is now known as Canada, 3/4 of those languages are endangered according to UNESCO. As our allies, there are many actions we can take to help revitalize Indigenous languages. At Peel District School Board, for instance, we offer language classes to First Nation, Inuit, and Métis students and families on Saturday mornings. Some actions that non-Indigenous Canadians can take include learning the traditional name of the place where you live and learning about the language and culture of your territory. Peel District School Board is on the ancestral and treaty land of the Michi Sagig Anishinaabe, now known as the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the language of this land is Anishinaabe-Moin. Peel District School Board is proud to celebrate the Indigenous languages of our students, staff, and educators, some of whom have taken the time today to record greetings in Anishinaabe-Moin, Ganyan Kaka, and Lenape to share with us today.
Ani, David Dijnakas, Mississauga Dunjaba.
Kwekwe, Jana Gibson Dijnakas. In the Anishinaabe-Moan language, which is also known as Ojibwe, Algonquin, Odawa. I said that in the Algonquin language, the Algonquin Anishinaabe-Moan language. And I said, hello, Kwekwe, and my name is Jane Gibson Dijnakas. My name is Jane Gibson.
Sego, Alyssa Lobo Yonya, Lotnan Shoni Kwe, Ogwari Nawagi Darodin. Alyssa Lobo, they call me. I am a Lotnan Shoni woman of the Longhouse, carrier of the flint. I am made of the clay of the Bear Clan, and in my native language, Kanyankahaka, we greet with a question. Are you a carrier of the Great Peace?
Ani Julia Indigenous.
This is the Lenape language. Kowinganewa, Nindashinzi Nicole. And what I said was, greetings, my name is Nicole.
Ani Joseph Dijnaka, Mississauga Dunjaba.
Ani Bujo Kinawea, Jennifer Dijnakas, Mississauga Dunjaba, Anishinaabe Kwenindau. Mikwach.
Ani Nana Bujo Kinawea, Wapski Gojinang, Minwa Shelley Indigenakas. Makwando Dem, Brampton Indigenaba, Marathon Andayan, French, Ojibwe, Scottish, Irish, Minwa Anishinaabe Kwe Indau. Miigwech Nahau. Hello everyone. My Anishinaabe name, Wapski Gojigang, means bright new shining star. And my English name is Shelley. I am Bear Clan. I live in Brampton. My home is Marathon. My ancestors come from Garden River, and I am a proud Anishinaabe woman. Bamapi Minwa Gwabamik. Goodbye.
Anushik, thank you.
Majashin, which means goodbye in Algonquin. So, Majashin.
That was lovely. The power of language as a part of identities. Thank you to everyone who participated, giving us this language learning opportunity and providing us with such a special way to honor the languages and identity of Indigenous people. April marks World Autism Month, and as I visited schools last week, I was able to see firsthand the dedication of our educators and support staff helping students with autism reach their potential. Peel District School Board has many programs in place to support students with autism, including training and courses for educators and staff to effectively teach students with a communication need. We have workshops that are run by speech and language pathologists and sessions that focus on supporting play-based learning for kids with autism spectrum disorders, as well as how to teach communication skills to learners with special needs and an autism spectrum disorder. April is also a busy month for families in Peel region, marking many significant celebrations of faith, reflection, unity, and togetherness. It is not only important that we recognize one another's religious holidays, but that we also understand the meaning behind each of the days of significance. I invite you to explore our calendar online and to take the time to learn about the celebrations, their meanings, and traditions. And April marks Sikh Heritage Month. It is recognized by the province of Ontario as a time to celebrate the culture, heritage, and rich contributions of the Sikh community locally and internationally. At Peel District School Board, there are many ways that classrooms are learning and experiencing the significant contributions that Sikh Canadians have made to Canadian society for well over a century. Resources provided to schools include a virtual tour of the history of Sikh Canadians via the Canadian Sikh Heritage Site. Peel District School Board has also developed e-modules providing an overview of Sikhism. In addition, a Sikh Heritage Month speaker series features notable Sikh Canadians such as Gurdeep Pandar, resident of the Yukon Territories, who models connection and joy through Bhangra dance, Navdeep Bhatia, the Raptors superfan, writers, poets, and authors Sophia Devi and Rakhi Mirchandani, whose identity-affirming texts will be made available to Peel District School Board students at each school. The event calendar and registration links are available through the Sikh Heritage Month system memo. We are grateful for the collaboration of the Sikh Employees for Voice and Advocacy, SEVA, Peel District School Board educators, and the Equity Department for the development of these events and resources. Another significant date that falls in April is Earth Day on April 22nd. This year's theme is Invest in Our Planet to help build healthy communities and a prosperous and equitable future. As sustainability leaders in Ontario, we have a lot of great initiatives planned to commemorate Earth Month. The Peel District School Board Sustainability Team in the Facilities Department has partnered with Green Learning to offer grades 4 to 12 schools a guided learning experience on energy conservation, turning students into energy managers. A total of 67 educators signed up. To complete the experience, participating schools will be taking action by hosting and tracking the environmental impact of a school Earth Hour event during the month of April using special kits and the Peel District School Board real-time energy meters. The Harold M. Brathwaite Secondary School Human Impact Student Eco Club is presenting their 2022 Virtual Secondary Student Earth Week Conference on April 6th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. The entire event is organized and run by students for students. More than 72 Peel District School Boards schools have registered for this year's virtual Peel Children's Water Festival for grades 2 to 5. and 33 Peel District School Board Eco Schools will be participating in National Goose Paper Day. Goose stands for good on one side and promotes using both sides of a paper before it is recycled. And finally, Eco Schools Canada will be live streaming their Earth Day event from awareness to action on April 21st at 1 p.m. And we currently have more than 20 Peel District School Board schools that have included the community cleanup action in their certification plan. Amazing work by Peel District School Board's energy and sustainability team and all the schools involved. And now an update on the ministry directives. On March 23rd, we marked the second anniversary of the ministry directives as we continue the very important and critical work of implementing the directives and working with students, staff, parents, caregivers, and community members to eradicate systemic racism, especially anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism. The work of the ministry directives serves as a clear roadmap, a mandate to engage in long-lasting changes that will create an excellent public education system where all students experience a deep sense of belonging and equitable outcomes, specifically those currently and historically underserved. The Director's annual report for 2020-2021 will be released tomorrow. It highlights our efforts last year to support the continuation of learning during the COVID-19 pandemic and profiles the work that was done on the ministry directives and beyond to promote an equitable and sustainable learning and working environment that is free of discrimination and where all students know they are valued, centered, and affirmed. And finally, as I said earlier, I've had the opportunity to go on a number of school visits recently and have seen the commitment of our administrative staff in creating a welcoming environment, from setting a positive tone as soon as you enter the front doors and keeping operations running smoothly, to supporting our communities, students, staff, and Peel District School Board families. April 27th is the Administrative Professional Day, and I acknowledge the hard work and dedication of all Peel District School Board administrative staff. You have helped us navigate the ever-changing realities of the pandemic, confidently juggling multiple responsibilities, and you have warmly welcomed our students back to in-person learning while helping to create a safe and supportive environment. We are so grateful for everything you do today and every day. On behalf of your colleagues and students at Peel District School Board, a huge thank you. And this concludes my remarks this evening.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, for those remarks. Move on to item number 13. There are no items on the consent agenda this evening. 14.1, the minutes from board meeting February the 23rd, 2022. I approved minutes of the board meeting of February the 23rd, 2022. Item 15.1, the minutes from the Parent Involvement Committee of January 20th, 2022. I am in receipt of the minutes of the Parent Involvement Committee of January 20th, 2022. And we move on to item 16.1, which is the COVID-19 update number 16. Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will now ask Coordinating Principal David Morgan to provide COVID-19 update number 16.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. As part of the Peel District School Board's ongoing commitment to student learning and student safety, the board is responsible to operationalize and cooperate with the guidance, orders, directives, and mandates of the Ministry of Education, Peel Public Health, and the Chief Medical Officer of Health. Please accept this oral report as a summary of recent updates. On March 9th, 2022, the Ministry of Education announced a number of significant changes to their guidance around COVID-19 prevention and control in school and workplace settings to be put into effect on March 14th and 21st. In consultation with Peel Public Health, the Peel District School Board has updated its guidance to students, staff, and families. Affected areas include masking, cohorting, vaccination disclosure, community use of schools, reporting requirements, and isolation requirements. Effective March 14, 2022, the Ministry of Education removed mandatory vaccination disclosure for school board employees. Concurrently, it lifted the requirement that school boards implement policies to collect vaccination status information, implement screening practices for asymptomatic and unvaccinated employees, and report vaccination rates to the Ministry of Education. As such, the Peel District School Board has revoked Health and Safety Procedure 62, which required that staff members disclose their vaccination status. Accordingly, all staff members who were placed on unpaid leave due to non-disclosure have been reinstated to their roles. Furthermore, staff members who attested that they are unvaccinated do not have to participate in an asymptomatic testing program any longer. PDSB staff impacted by these changes have been informed. As Peel District School Board staff are no longer required to attest to their vaccination status, the board has lifted the requirement that volunteers, non-essential vendors, and community coaches be fully vaccinated. Removing vaccination requirements allows for more community use and participation in the work of Peel schools. The board is pleased to announce that spectators are once again able to attend ROPSA events at the discretion of school principals. Additionally, community use permits for not-for-profit community youth organizations will be restarting on April 4th, 2022, Mondays through Fridays. The Peel District School Board is pleased to welcome these groups back into schools. A significant number of changes came into effect on March 21st, 2022. Firstly, mandatory masking in schools and work locations in the province have been lifted. The Peel District School Board respects each individual's right to choose to wear a mask and expects that all members of our community demonstrate the same respect. Other infection prevention and control measures have also been relaxed, including mandatory hand hygiene, cohorting, and social distancing requirements. These do remain strongly recommended public health measures. There are still times when masking is mandatory, including when a student or staff member returns from isolation due to COVID-19, when a student or staff member returns from international travel, and when a fully vaccinated student or staff member attends school or work while a household member is isolating. Due to the end of cohorting and social distancing, elementary schools are now able to return to more typical instructional models, including seating in groups during class and at lunch, the return of classroom carpets, and recess without cohorting. Elementary instructional music and athletic extracurricular activities are now permitted, and the Peel District School Board shares the excitement of students and staff about the return of elementary extracurricular activities. The Peel District School Board has also ended daily screening verification at elementary school sites. The board is also pleased to report that on and off-site in-person graduations, proms, and year-end celebrations are permitted this school year. All COVID prevention and control measures that are in place at the time of the event will be followed. Furthermore, as the Peel District School Board values inclusion, principals will ensure that off-site graduation, prom, and year-end celebration venues will not restrict entrance due to vaccination status. The board is pleased that students will be able to celebrate the milestone of graduation with their families and friends this school year. The Peel District School Board values transparency, and as such, schools will continue to inform families and staff members when they become aware of a positive COVID case via a letter which is sent to students and staff who have interacted with the positive individual. The school board will continue to provide students and staff with rapid antigen tests to ensure that should they become symptomatic, testing is readily available for them. As an additional layer of transparency, all Peel schools continue to report daily absences to the Ministry of Education through the absence reporting tool. Thus far in March, there have been 3 schools reporting a level of staff and student absence above the 30% baseline absence threshold. Schools also continue to report the number of classes that have been temporarily moved online to the board. And in the month of March so far, 2 classes have been moved temporarily online. As vaccination is the most effective tool for mitigating against the risk of contracting COVID-19, the Peel District School Board is working in partnership with Peel Public Health to provide communities with school-based vaccination clinics. Peel Public Health uses various data sources to identify communities that are best suited to host these school-based clinics. In the month of March, the Peel District School Board hosted 38 vaccination clinics in total and added 6 new schools as vaccination clinic sites. Between March 1st and March 25th, these clinics gave 2,233 doses in total, 877 to children between the ages of 5 and 11, 552 to youth between 12 and 17, and 804 doses to adults. We are proud to be supporting the increased uptake in vaccination rates amongst 5 to 11-year-olds. As of March 25th, 51.4% of children aged 5 to 11 in Peel have received 1 dose, and 30.4% have received 2. Throughout April, the board will continue to support vaccination against COVID-19 with both school hours and community hours clinics in elementary and secondary schools. Additionally, the board will support the ramping up of school hours routine immunization clinics for secondary students, protecting them against HPV, Hep B, and meningitis. The Peel District School Board welcomes community voice, questions, and feedback. Should trustees receive questions regarding COVID-19 prevention and control measures, I invite them to forward these questions to the Director's Office. In this way, the board can respond to community members in a timely manner. Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Coordinating Principal Morgan, and thank you, Director Swaroop, and thanks for that report. Lots of good news in there as well, so really appreciate that. Are there any questions? Just have one question. When a particular school reaches the 30% threshold and that's reported to the ministry, is the trustee of that school made aware of that?
When a school hits the 30% threshold, they email Peel Public Health, and in consultation with Peel Public Health, they introduce prevention and control measures. At the same time, the superintendent of that family of schools, as well as the Caring and Safe Schools Department, are made aware of the 30% threshold being reached. At this time, trustees are not made aware, but we can certainly take that back to the department and add that in as an additional layer of transparency.
Thank you, Coordinating Principal Morgan. Appreciate that. When will the public health clinic return for grade 7? Trustee Kathy McDonald's asking that question. And what will happen to the students that missed the clinic as they were canceled last year?
Peel Public Health right now is focused on catching up students in grades 12 and grades 12 and 11 who missed routine immunization due to COVID-19. So their focus right now is on students who are graduating from Peel schools so that we can make sure that they've received their routine immunizations. And as we roll through grade 11 and grade 12, Peel Public Health will be focusing on the students who missed in the past 2 years.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the comprehensive report, Coordinating Principal Morgan. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Director Swaroop. And I am in receipt of the COVID-19 update number 16. Moving to 16.2, the Ministry Directives, Directive 7. The report stands as it does. Are there any questions about the report on Directive 7? Seeing no questions on the report, I'm in receipt of the report on committee composition as information. And I'm going to move on to 16.2B, Directive 9, Equity Accountability Report Card, Understanding the Equity Gap in Special Education, Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will now ask Superintendent Bernadette Smith to present the report.
Can I just interrupt? I'm sorry, I just read the last question, Director Swaroop. It might be for Coordinating Principal Morgan. The question from Trustee McDonald is, aren't the vaccines mandatory for grade 7? And some may be graduating.
I will certainly take that question back to Peel Public Health to get an answer to that. I do know that Peel Public Health's current focus for those routine immunizations for HPV, Hep B, and meningitis are focusing on students who are currently aging out of our system as they ramp up capacity to host those clinics.
Thanks, Principal Morgan. Sorry about that.
So moving on, thank you. Over to you, Superintendent Bernadette Smith.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. I will now ask Research Manager Lynn Hollingshead to share a review of the findings of the report.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith and Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. This evening, I would like to present to you the Equity Accountability Report Card, Understanding the Equity Gap in Special Education. This report is in response to Ministry Directive 9, which instructs the board to develop and implement a comprehensive annual equity accountability report card that reports on clearly defined student-centered outcomes, including eliminating disparities in achievement of students from the board's various communities, establishes accountability measures and responsibilities for school and senior board leadership using disaggregated data, and assesses, evaluates, and reports on progress towards improving outcomes for all students. Some key highlights in this report, Understanding the Equity Gap in Special Education, are Indigenous students are more likely to be identified with an exceptionality excluding gifted than their presence in the PDSB population would predict. Black and Indigenous students are much more likely to be identified with a behavioral exceptionality compared with what their representation in the PDSB would predict. Black students are much less likely to be identified as gifted compared with what their representation in PDSB would predict. Students identified with an exceptionality are likely to receive one or more suspensions in comparison to what their overall representation in the student population would predict. Within the group of students with exceptionalities, students who identify as Black or Indigenous are more likely to be suspended than other racial groups. In response to current disproportionalities within special education, the PDSB has been and continues to engage in system actions that align with a number of goals. I highlight a few of them for you here. Continue to work with central special education, school-based staff, professional support services, and families to build understanding of the purpose of assessments for informing instruction and programming rather than for placements. Develop program descriptions and admission or demission criteria to address the disproportionality of overrepresentation of Black, Indigenous, and racialized students within the special education. And continue the system implementation of the student review process through a robust and sustained professional learning series that seeks to interrupt the automaticity of placements in special education programs. The Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Department will be supported by special education in the provision of Tier 2 strategies in advance of consideration of Tier 3 strategies. Thank you, Superintendent Smith and Director Swaroop.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, Superintendent Smith, and Researcher Hollingsworth. Are there any questions? I just have one. Again, thank you for the robust report and analysis. I was able to glean quite a bit from it. My only question is more of a generic one pertaining to the next steps. They all seem excellent and necessary for implementation. I guess my question pertains to the specifics of timelines and details of the how. Do you have a sense of how long this may take And can one assume that you have already thought about details to make this happen?
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will ask either Superintendent Smith or Manager Hollingshead to see if they have a response.
Thank you, Director Swaroop. I will jump in. So what we have done is we have provided the recommendations based on the information and the data that we have. Next, this information is to be shared with the Special Education Department as well as the Curriculum Department. And in turn, the action items, the recommendations are in turn put into motion with the team there. So this is the report from the research department at this point. So this is the information that we can share and make those recommendations.
Thanks, Superintendent Smith. Question from Trustee Green. How is this information communicated to parents?
I thank you to Director Swaroop and Supervisor Rodriguez. So the communication to parents happens through the board reports as well. So these summaries are shared on our board website and through other forms of communication through the Special Education Department as well as through the Curriculum Department, and also with our directives dashboard where the actions are managed and continue to be updated as the outcomes are achieved.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, again, thank you, Researcher Hollingshead and Superintendent Smith and Director Swaroop for the report, a really rich report. Thanks. I'm in receipt of the Directive 9 report for information on the Equity Accountability Report Card, Understanding the Equity Gap in Special Education. Moving on to item C then, Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I would now ask Executive Lead Jessica Jesudasan, Human Rights Officer, to present Directive 12.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. The purpose of this report is to provide an update further to Directive 12 on the progress of the Human Rights Office since the release of the Ministry's March 2020 review, and to present a draft Human Rights Policy 51 and Operating Procedure 1 for public consultation and feedback, aimed for final approval and receipt in May 2022. Since the Ministry's March 2020 review, the Human Rights Office has done the following. We've revised Human Rights Policy 51 to clearly describe the independent, arm's length, and neutral nature of the office and provide information to those who may seek to engage with it about the process that will be followed. We've changed the Human Rights Office's name from the Human Rights Commissioner's Office to the Human Rights Office to more accurately reflect the office's staff composition. We've moved the Human Rights Office's physical location off-site from the Central Board Office to 200 Matheson Boulevard West to address community members' concerns regarding confidential and discreet access to the Human Rights Office. We've also submitted for receipt an interim operating procedure in October of 2021 under Human Rights Policy 51, which further affirmed the independent and arm's length nature of our office. It strengthened the provision against reprisal, and it clarified the board's complaint mechanisms. The interim operating procedure has been in place while a full review and revision of Human Rights Policy 51 and Operating Procedure 1 takes place throughout the 2021-2022 school year with community and stakeholder consultation. In addition, we have continued to receive, address, and resolve complaints of discrimination by PDSB community members through alternate resolution, through investigation, and have continued to provide consults to all PDSB community members, as well as delivering training to the community and contributing an independent and impartial perspective to the development of human rights policies, of board policies and procedures. Attached to the board report is a draft Human Rights Policy 51 and Operating Procedure for public consultation and feedback from the PDSB community. All board policies and procedures are aligned with and informed by Human Rights Policy 51, including Safe and Accepting Schools Policy 48, Equity and Inclusive Education Policy 54, workplace harassment procedure EHS 4.2, and the board's anticipated anti-racism policy. The Human Rights Office, in collaboration with other board departments, is currently in the process of developing a procedure, staff reporting tool, and training to address the use of discriminatory statements in PDSB's learning and working environments. The revisions in the draft human rights policy and operating procedure will create alignment with the board's initiatives aimed at solidifying its commitment to anti-racism and anti-oppression and fostering its legal obligation to provide equality in services and employment under the Ontario Human Rights Code. To support the implementation of a final human rights policy and operating procedure, ongoing human rights training and support will be provided to staff and board management at the beginning of the 2022 to 2023 school year and throughout that school year. In September 2021, the Human Rights Office developed and delivered system-wide training on human rights to all PDSB staff. The draft policy and OP will be posted on the Human Rights Office's public webpage next week for public feedback to ensure that all PDSB community members have easy and transparent access and an opportunity to share their thoughts and feedback. The Human Rights Office will be connecting with and providing an opportunity for internal and external stakeholders to provide input, comments, and feedback during April 2022. The Human Rights Office will also be revamping its public webpage next week to provide information, support, and resources to the PDSB community on their human rights at PDSB, on identifying discrimination, how to report a concern or make a complaint of discrimination with the board, and how concerns of discrimination can be resolved. We are also happy to be launching an online human rights complaint and support form on our public webpage next week to make it easy and accessible for PDSB community members to contact our office, whether it's to ask a question, report an incident, or to make a complaint of discrimination. Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Officer Jesudasan, and thank you, Director Swaroop. Are there any questions? We do have a question from Trustee McDonald. Kathy, on page 13, second to last paragraph, how do you ensure that the actual decision letter of the finding is sent to the complainant, especially if a member of the board or senior staff are found at fault? So we'll start there and then we'll sort of deal with the other questions.
Sure, thank you for the question, Trustee McDonald. So the way that we ensure that the actual decision with the findings is sent to the complainant is by sending it to the complainant. As part of our process, we deliver an outcome decision letter to complainants regarding the results of our investigation, along with a substantive summary of the investigation report.
The second question is on page 16, second to last paragraph. Is the PDSB obliged or are the impacted parties given any support or guidance as to the next steps?
Yes, when PDSB community members reach out to our office, we inform them of their options and of what the process of alternate resolution or investigation will look like. Of course, not all complaints need to proceed to formal investigation. Some can be resolved by alternate resolution, and we share that with complainants so that they have a full understanding, a transparent understanding of what the process would look like. And we also share with them well-being supports that they can access throughout the process to make sure that it's one that's trauma-informed and comfortable to them.
Thank you. And on page 25, the third to last paragraph, do we have a policy? And if yes, are staff aware of the policy? If staff destroy evidence that is known or ought reasonably to be known, may result in a litigation. When all is said and done and all staff receive the training, will they be required to sign that they attended the training and understand their obligations?
So I believe the question is regarding staff's responsibilities with respect to employee information and confidentiality. And so that is set out in our policy. And that would likely be covered with respect to the destruction of evidence that may be used in litigation. I would assume under a different policy. It is not addressed under Human Rights Policy 51. And as to whether they receive training and will be required to sign that they attend the training, I will defer back to the director on who may be able to answer that. But like I said, that's not addressed under Human Rights Policy 51. Regarding the other questions, sorry, Supervisor Rodriguez, if I may proceed.
Yes, go right ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. What timeline is considered too long? Of course, every investigation, every process is different, and some may be resolved in a month, and others that involve several witnesses that span several years and involve a number of allegations may take 6 months to 9 months. So it really is context and circumstantial. So the timeline that may be considered too long will depend on the nature of the complaint that's brought and what's required to address it appropriately.
Great, thank you for all of those. Yeah, again, thank you for the detailed and robust report. And just one question from my end is that after consultation of both Policy 51 and the Operating Procedure 1, do you have a sense of a timeline for completion of the final version?
Yes, Supervisor Rodriguez. We're aiming for completion and submission for approval and receipt at the May 2022 board meeting.
Great, thank you. And from Student Trustee Sen, how will students be informed of the human rights policies? Many students right now do not have an understanding of their rights, so are there any plans to inform them?
Thank you, Trustee Sen. Great question. At the moment, students are informed of human rights, their human rights obligations and responsibilities, and also their own entitlements to human rights through the school administration at the school site level. We do have plans as a Human Rights Office to reach out to students directly to let them know about what their rights are in school. And as we expand as an office, that we're hopeful that that's something that we can do to increase student engagement, because it is very important that students know their rights and know what they should and should not tolerate in their school and learning environments. So that's definitely something that we're planning on. Also important to remember and consider that with respect to student discipline, that would be addressed under Safe and Accepting Schools Policy 48 and its operating procedures, which are also aligned with our policy as well.
That's great news. According to Trustee McDonald and others, I'm sure will welcome that news. Trustee Green, can that be placed in the student handbook as well?
Yes, absolutely, Trustee Green. That's a great suggestion and a great way to get the word out to students as well. So with the coming school year in 2022 to 2023, with a final policy and operating procedure in place, we do plan to communicate at the start of the school year to students and to parents and community the presence of the Human Rights Office, and also affirming at the start of every school year the process of how those complaints can be addressed. Remembering that all levels, all complaints of discrimination can be resolved at the board level through board management and school admin, and our office being here as an independent and impartial resource to support all community members with any questions that may have, or with issues that may be more appropriate for our office to address.
Great. Thank you for that, and thank you again for the robust report. Seeing no further questions, I am in receipt of the Directive 12 report on the Human Rights Office update and Human Rights Policy and Operating Procedure feedback. Moving on to item 16.3, the renaming of Sir John A. Macdonald Senior Public School and review of Policy 27, naming of schools. Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will now ask Associate Director Camille Logan to present this report.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. In December of 2021, a report on the namings of school, Policy 27, provided an update on the Actions and Naming of Schools Working Group tasked to report on the work specific to the review of Policy 27, naming of schools, and the community consultation with respect to the renaming of Sir John A. Macdonald Senior Public School. Staff were directed from a working group to conduct an equity review of Policy 27. The working group was tasked to conduct community consultations with and including members of the school community, which consisted of students, staff, the school trustee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. The report provided an overview of the community consultation process. The purpose of this evening's report is to recommend to the board the renaming of the school and to now present the new name. I will now turn it over to Donna Ford, Superintendent, Equity, Indigenous Education, Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression, and School Engagement, to provide an overview of the report.
Thank you, Associate Director Logan, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. The purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to board to rename the school at 250 Center Street, Brampton, Sir John A. Macdonald Middle School, as Nibi Emosawadang, an Anishinaabe name meaning water walker. The name has come about through consultation with our treaty partners, represented by the Mississauga of the Credit River Métis, the Peel Indigenous Network of Employees, the Indigenous Network, the Credit Métis Council. The consultation process is outlined in the report. The consultation process is guided by these leaders is an example of navigating the path to reconciliation by first acknowledging the truth. The truth we acknowledge as PDSB staff is the far-reaching and generational impact of the colonial project of residential schools on Indigenous communities. Removing the name of the architect of a residential school system in Canadian history is a step towards change. The discoveries of many unmarked graves across the country show no good has come from those institutions. Reconciliation can also be a story of healing. One way to do this is to turn to the land. Water walkers within Indigenous communities are known to raise consciousness on the respect and preservation of precious resources, namely water. The name Nibi Emosawadang, meaning water walker, is an enduring environmental and educational base from which to center student learning, care for sustaining the environment, and commitments for sustaining relationships with Indigenous communities to do all of that. As noted in the report, the actions outlined in the report through the School Naming Committee are in keeping with Directive 18, the equity audit. The additional task of the School Naming Committee was to review Policy 27, school naming, and while the policy update is not yet completed, the naming of the school does consider the principles of the draft policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ford. Thank you, AD Logan, and thank you, Director Swaroop. Are there any questions? Question from Trustee Green. Could you share the communication plan, how this will be communicated to the community?
Yes, thank you for the question, Trustee Green. Our communications department have been integral to these activities, and pending the receipt of this report as a recommendation to rename the school, we will be connecting with our facilities department to act accordingly, after which time the school will receive from communications a notice that will be shared to the school community who have been part of the consultation process. Also, we'll be using many of our other social media platforms to give notice to this change as well. And further down line, we are looking to, if it goes in favor of the board, to acknowledge the change in terms of the renaming of the school pending receipt of the recommendation.
Great. Seeing no further question. Trustee Green, I would like to see this in the local papers as well.
Thank you. Noted.
Wonderful. So thanks to the committee for their work on this, and certainly for the rich collaboration with all stakeholders to come up with the recommendation. And I'm in agreement with the recommendation that the board rename Sir John A. Macdonald Public School. And furthermore, the new name for the school is Nibi Emosawadang Public School. Moving on to item 16.4, Punjabi and Sikh student success and well-being. Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will call upon Associate Director Camille Logan to present the report.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. As the board continues on a clear path towards system transformation, we continue to engage in processes and practices to identify and disrupt oppressive practices by grounding our work in human rights, anti-racism, and decolonizing approaches to teaching, learning, and leading. The ministry review identified patterns of systemic racism resulting in disparities in achievement outcomes and experiences predominantly for Black, Indigenous, and students marginalized by various social identities and their intersections, including faith. Board-led consultations as part of the ministry review with members of affected communities reiterated the need to understand the experiences and outcomes of students marginalized by faith, including Sikh identifying students. These consultations led to further opportunities to explore concerns specifically raised by the Punjabi and Sikh community as a result of student consultations and direct work of Punjabi, Sikh, and identifying students, parents, staff, and community organizations. I will now call upon Donna Ford, Superintendent of Equity, Indigenous Education, Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression, and School Engagement, to provide an overview of the report.
Thank you, Associate Director Logan, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the opportunity for the Peel District School Board to acknowledge the Punjabi and Sikh identifying students, their needs, whether well-being, social, emotional, and the effects on their achievement, and the community's advocacy on the students and their families' behalf to the PDSB. The voices of secondary students recorded in the Equity Accountability Report Card, Part 1, contained in the December 2021 report to board, provide staff at minimum a starting point to work with this data and moreover work directly with students and their families to affirm their experiences. As an example, you have heard already from Director Swaroop that April is Sikh Heritage Month and the various opportunities upcoming for PDSB students and staff. We recognize that Heritage Months are a culminating opportunity and not the only time or way to recognize the heritage of our Punjabi and Sikh identifying students. However, collaborations between central departments with communities to, for instance, make schools and classrooms, classroom environments representative, utilize learning resources with Punjabi and Sikh stories and experiences, access well-being resources along with normalized discussions of mental health, all contribute to the goal of increasing the sense of belonging for Punjabi and Sikh identifying students. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ford. Thank you, AD Logan. Thank you, Director Swaroop. Are there any questions about the report? Question from Trustee McDonald on page 2. I was wondering if you would add as a bullet point mental health.
Thank you for that, Trustee McDonald.
Thanks for that. From Trustee Sohi, at the end of the report you mentioned, and she quotes, continued targeted hiring, unquote, although advocating for this for a while since we had our survey, as this is the first step. However, the board has never received any report on targeted hiring for Punjabi Sikh educators, administrators, etc. What does this mean?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Sohi. I think what we're trying to do with this report is, on the one hand, acknowledge the opportunity to support our acknowledge the experiences of our Punjabi and Sikh students, And on the other hand, we recognize that there are opportunities where we can do that by ensuring that our classrooms are led by individuals, educators who carry the identities to which that are reflected by the students. I know that through our hiring policy 90, there is work that is going on there. So we're just trying to underscore that there are many avenues to addressing the concerns that are raised in the report. I'm not sure, Associate Director Logan, if you have anything more to add to that.
Thank you, Superintendent Ford. And I guess just to add to that, again, we know that it is significant for students to see themselves reflected in the classrooms. And we also know that we're engaging in a workforce census at this point in time. So we are going to be looking at where we have gaps in our hiring and looking at ways to increase the various representation of our students to be reflected in the students as well.
Great, thank you. I just have one question. Can one assume that ongoing meetings are occurring with the Punjabi Sikh community relative to the next steps presented in the report?
Thank you for the question. What I understand is that meetings have been happening. I do know, again, through the report that because of that, again, central departments have an opportunity to present, should there be future meetings, to provide updates on what is happening on the ground with respect to changes to meet the needs that are identified through this report of our Punjabi and Sikh identifying students.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Superintendent Ford, ADs Logan, and Director Swaroop. I'm in receipt of the Punjabi and Sikh Student Success and Wellbeing Report. Moving on to item 16.5, second quarter financial reports as at February 28th, 2022. Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will now ask Associate Director Jaspal Gill to present the report.
So thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. The report provides board's actual expenditures up to February 28, 2022. The expenditures are in line with those of previous years and our benchmark of 50%. There are currently no concerns with our normal operating expenditures being within the budget for the remainder of the year. In regards to COVID-specific funding, it will be fully utilized by the end of the year, with some need to supplement from the board's reserves or in-year savings. As per ministry guidelines, school boards can utilize up to 2% of their operating allocation from reserve to support expenditures related to COVID. Controller Latasha Charles and I are happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, AD Gill, and thank you to your team. Thank you, Director Swaroop, for the detailed report. It was very, very helpful. I especially found the comments on the side to be really helpful in explaining some things. Not sure if there are any questions. I've just got a few questions just in terms of understanding some numbers. The first one that I have was in the use of funds allocated for mental health PD. And I'm looking at page 6, line 2 in particular. Is that still in the works, or is that subsumed in another line?
Not sure if Controller Latasha Charles have any comments on that.
For you, Supervisor Rodriguez. So the funding for the mental health is actually, some of it has already been allocated through a different department. So the amount here is the amount that has not fully been utilized. We're looking to utilize it through the remainder of the year.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought it might be. Another question is the capital expenditure on page 10, line 5. Is that related to COVID and use of computers or to something else? And second to that is there any concern of this line continuing to rise?
So that's on page 10, right?
10, line 5.
Line 5. So I believe, through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, that those expenditures are related to the computers and the technology that was purchased by our school effectiveness team, and that's what is reflected there. And that was not budgeted at the time of the budget, but the expenditures are related to the technology, especially the computers purchased by our school effectiveness team.
Okay. On the same page 10, line 8 and 13 refer to international students, and we've had a decline in those students this past year. Do we see that increasing again, or will we expect further decline of those students in subsequent years?
To you, Supervisor Rodriguez, currently we have around 260 international students who are with us this year, and we're projecting that number will grow to around 295. It's not a number that we would like to have, but that's what we're projecting based on still the COVID restrictions in many of the countries and the travel restrictions and all that. So what we're projecting is a number of around 295 for the next school year.
Great, thanks so much. And just one final question. In the last page where you provide the grants, the ministry grants from other sources, some of them have not been accessed at all. And are there reasons for that? So I'm thinking specifically about, things like the demographic data gathering grant, the focus on youth, the Keeping Students in School pilot project, the Learning and Innovation Fund. Doesn't seem to have been accessed. And I know that those, I don't know which ones can be carried forward and which ones aren't, but I know that they're enveloped for return. Is there some reason that the grants have not been accessed, or are we still going to be accessing those?
To you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I mean, these funds, because as you mentioned, they are for specific tasks, and there are definitely some timelines within which those funds need to be used, but they do come throughout the year. They do come through the year. So some of these funds, we may have just received them within the last, I think, few weeks, month or something like that. But we will definitely, actually our finance staff, they monitor these funds every month. And in fact, they connect with the program leads or the project leads for each of these programs, and they work with them to make sure, first of all, that we fully utilize those funds, because otherwise, most of the time, those funds need to go back to the ministry. So we make sure that we fully utilizing those funds to the best we can, and that we are using those funds within the timelines. So we continue to monitor them, and I think it's not only rarely that where we don't fully spend those funds.
Great, thanks. Thank you again. Thanks for the report. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Controller Letitia Charles. Thanks, AD Gill, and thanks, Director Swaroop. It was wonderful to read the detail. I'm in receipt of the second quarter financial reports as at February 28th, 2022. 16.6 Compliance Audit Committees 2022 to 2026. Director Swaroop.
Through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, there is no presentation on these, at this time.
Understood. Yeah, thanks so much. I agree with the recommendation that the Peel District School Board appoint the same members as the compliance audit committees established by the municipalities within the Peel District School Board's jurisdiction, and that the Peel District School Board shall be responsible to pay the expenses of the Compliance Audit Committee for any compliance audit required relating to a school board trustee candidate campaign expenses, and that this decision be communicated to the clerks for the City of Brampton, the Town of Caledon, and the City of Mississauga. Item 16.7, Trustee Determination and Distribution. Director Swaroop.
Yes, through you, Supervisor Rodriguez, I will ask Governance Officer Catherine Lockyer to provide the update.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Supervisor Rodriguez. The trustee determination and distribution is a report that's required to be sent to the ministry before each municipal election. And the outcome of this particular analysis to determine the trustee determination and distribution is that it remains the same as it did for the last term of the trustees. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Governance Officer Lockyer, and thank you, Director Swaroop. Are there any questions from the trustees? Seeing none, I agree with the recommendation, and that in accordance with Section 4.1 of Ontario Regulation 412.00, the Peel District School Board does not designate any municipality within its jurisdiction as a low population municipality. And further, that the Peel District School Board be determined at 12 trustees, and further that the Peel District School Board's distribution of the 12 trustees be as follows: Brampton 5, Caledon 1, Mississauga 6, and further that the ward assignments for the 5 City of Brampton trustees be as follows: Wards 1 and 5, Wards 2 and 6, Wards 3 and 4, Wards 7 and 3, and Wards 9 and 10, and further that the ward assignments for the 1 Town of Caledon trustee be as follows: Wards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and further that the ward assignments for the 6 City of Mississauga trustees be as follows: Wards 1 and 7, Wards 2 and 3, Wards 2 and 8, Wards 3 and 4, Ward 5, Wards 6 and 11, and Wards 9 and 10, and further that this determination and distribution of trustees be submitted to the Minister of Education and the election clerks for the City of Brampton, the Town of Caledon, and the City of Mississauga by April 4th, 2022. Correction, it's Wards 7 and 8 in Brampton. My mistake, not 7 and 3. My mistake. Thank you for that correction, really helpful. So I believe it's reflected as it's written. Thank you. Item number 17, trustee motions for consideration introduced at a previous meeting. 17.1, motion regarding writing a letter to the Minister of Education to reform the Education Act and to provide for student trustees to have the right to move and second motions independently. Student trustees Sen and Zhao.
So through you, Supervisor, first of all, good evening, everyone. So it's so great to be here with all of you once again and to speak to all of you, this time for something that is very, very exciting. So as you all know, last month, me and my co-trustee Selena brought a motion to the table regarding student trustee governance. And so essentially what this motion is asking for is that a letter be sent to the Ministry of Education from our school board requesting that amendment be made to the Education Act so that student trustees are allowed to independently move and second motions. So I'll first pass it on to Selena so that she can first provide some context and to the making and like the history of this motion.
Yeah, for sure. So good evening, everyone. Right now, the student trustee's right to move and second motions is forbidden according to the Education Act. So essentially what we're trying to do is we want this to be an amendment to the Education Act and we want to change the Constitution. So all the way back in 2004 to around 2005, OSAECO, which is the Ontario Student Trustees Association, released a report called The Student Trustee Today and Tomorrow. So this report had a concise outline that detailed the practice of past student trustee legislation, as well as recommendations for the current legislature to consider to improve the quality of student representation within the boards and within the entire ministry. So unfortunately, this is a recommendation that has not been mandated by the government, nor was it ever focused on. And we want to recall this particular recommendation and ensure that it's acted upon because over the years, the lack of autonomy that student trustees have has really affected the ability to interact and work with students at a board level. So we truly believe that students would be much more heard if there are students representing them at a board who can make tangible change on their own and doesn't have to be going through other trustees or going through other entities. So as one of the biggest school boards, us Peelschools School Board, us setting forth this motion will hopefully set a precedent and also provide solidarity for students at other boards who are bringing up this change and bringing up this motion. So currently we know that the Grand Erie District School Board as well as the Waterloo Catholic District School Board have already written and sent their letters about this motion to the Ministry of Education, and there are also other boards who are following suit and in the process of bringing the motion up to their boards, including Dufferin Peel, who are super close to us. And we really believe that the current model inhibits our ability to represent students to the best of our ability, and our ask is that the chair of the board send a letter to the Ministry of Education on behalf of the Peel District School Board, copying to the local MPPs, the OC, SCA, and OSAECO to request the Ministry of Education make changes to the Education Act in that student trustees will be allowed to independently move and second motions during board meetings. I'll pass it right back to Divanita.
Okay, thank you. So now that you all have some background, I'm going to go more into why this is important and kind of talk about what we want the result of this motion to be and what we want it to accomplish in the future. So like as we know, student trustees are elected by our student bodies to act as board representatives with the expectation that the student voice is articulated fairly and expressively during board meetings for the benefit of our school board. And because of this, like we carry the role and responsibility of ensuring that student voices are heard, acknowledged, and also sought out during decision making. So our role is one that provides students confidence in their voices because they expect that their ideas, their opinions, their concerns, and suggestions to be amplified through our voices as student trustees. And that being said, we believe that we should be provided the means to support all student voice in every way possible. And we believe that one of the biggest ways of doing this is being able to bring motions that would be advised and informed by our students to the board. And so although our votes would still be non-binding, if this amendment was made, what it would allow us to do is incite discussion that would be relevant and important to the student body and to engage further at the board and committee tables. And so like at our school board, I know that Selena will agree with me when I say this, but we know that we have the full support of our trustees if we want to bring up motions, but this isn't always the case at other school boards because some school boards across Ontario lack the support needed by student trustees to properly discuss and address the needs of students. And so this movement, which is fully supported by the Ontario Student Trustees Association, is attempting to build up student trustee support in areas where it is currently lacking. And so this movement and this motion isn't one that just supports the students at the PDSB, but for students all across the province. And by passing this motion, we can show that we not only care about and prioritize student voices at our board, but we want it to be prioritized at every other school board in Ontario. And so what we hope for is that for this motion and just like ultimately is that this amendment to the Ed Act provokes even further reform to the student trustee governance policies to give them more power in the education system and in turn giving more power to the general student voice. And so I think this is pretty much all we have to say. I also just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has helped us bring this motion to the table, especially our trustee mentors, Trustee Sohi and Trustee Crocker, Catherine Lockyer, and obviously Supervisor Rodriguez for moving this motion for us. And so we hope that this can be an open discussion and we are open to any thoughts. So if anyone has any questions for myself or Selena, please go ahead.
Thank you, student trustees Sen and Zhao. The passion for the motion is certainly quite evident, and so we really appreciate you bringing forth the ideas. I'll wait to see if the trustees have any questions for you. Does this also mean voting on motions by Trustee Sohi?
So I guess I'll take that one. So the letter that we would send wouldn't include allowing student trustees to be able to vote on motions. Our votes would still be non-binding. It would just allow us to bring the motions independently.
Thank you. Wonderful. Seeing certainly no opposition and no opposition from my end, the motion will pass. Thank you from Trustee Sohi. The motion passes and will be enacted as it is stated. Thank you to both of you for bringing this forward. Really appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion for it. There are no trustee notices of motion at this meeting, and we've come to item number 19. Having no further business this evening, I adjourn the regular meeting of the board, and a special thank you to our media team, Mark and his team, and have a wonderful evening.